Life is nothing more than a collection of experiences, and in those experiences, it is our interactions with others that shape us as people, and in turn, help guide our lives down different paths. The decisions you make will alter your life and the lives of others. Sometimes, the change is so small that it isn't immediately noticed or even noticed at all. Sometimes, the change is cataclysmic, and you're left in awe of just how much of an impact that decision made. Sometimes, you'll know when an important decision is coming up. Other times, you'll be caught off guard and you'll need to act quickly. But even failing to act is an action in and of itself. Look now, ahead of you. Someone is approaching. He's going to have you make a decision. Are you ready? Prepare yourself. I know you'll make the right choice. Hello, it's me. Yes, I was the someone approaching. As I mentioned not even a minute ago, I present you with two options. Stay, and I'll show you more about the power of choice and where it can take you. Or leave, and even then you're still making a choice, and I'm still showing you the power of choice inadvertently. The choice is yours. Good answer. Take my hand. Hello, and welcome to one of the greatest visual novels that has ever graced this earth. No, I ain't talking about Steins Gate. No, I ain't talking about Katawa Shoujo, or Doki Doki Literature Club, or Valhalla, and I'm definitely not talking about Danganronpa. Put all that shit in the trash, because we're talking about 428 Shibuya Scramble, where your choices will determine the fate of our characters, the city of Shibuya, and the entire world.
Ooh, what does this button do? Please, do not push the button. You have no idea what it...
.428 Shibuya Scramble was originally developed by Spike Chunsoft all the way back in 2008 for the Wii. It received both critical and commercial success, even garnering a perfect score from the Japanese gaming magazine Famitsu. It was eventually ported to the PSP and PS3 in 2009, iOS in 2011, and finally the PS4 and Steam in 2018, a whole 10 years after its initial release. It's a visual novel I've known about for a while, but never got around to playing until recently. And you know, I'm glad I did. It's definitely the most enjoyable visual novel I've played since Danganronpa V3. Yes, I know I just said to throw Danganronpa in the trash earlier, but I was just joking. Come on, I definitely wouldn't want to piss off the Dangan fans. The thing that surprised me the most about this game is how few people have actually played it. Actually, I don't even know how many people have ever even heard about it. It's kind of crazy. While I was playing it, I took a small break and I looked up what the general populace would consider the best visual novels of all time, or at least just some general recommendations, to see where Shibuya Scramble ranked. And you know what? Not a single person or list I saw mentioned this game. Maybe it's actually just really bad and I'm crazy, but I'm willing to bet there's another reason. I'm sensing a bit of an aesthetic difference between 428, Shibuya Scramble, and all the other visual novels that get recommended. Anime was most definitely a mistake. But hey, Shibuya Scramble is made by the Japanese, and set in Japan, so you weebs should love this shit. Or is real life that terrifying to all of you?
Christy and Laura, what you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burned.
I guess I don't blame you. Alright now, to be fair, I'm not some level 99 visual novel scholar that's played over 100 visual novels. I've read my fair share, but I'm by no means a seasoned VN enjoyer. That shouldn't matter though, because quality is quality, and that's what Shibuya Scramble is going for. Before we get into the actual meat of the game, if you've never played or ever even heard of a visual novel before, allow me to briefly explain. A visual novel is essentially an interactive picture book where you experience the story and try to unlock all the different endings that the game has to offer. This would be like if J.K. Rowling wrote a separate set of books where Harry called Ron a virgin and hung out with Malfoy and the boys instead. Something along those lines, I don't know, I don't really give a shit. Now, if you're like me and you hate books, you might be asking yourself, why would I waste my time reading a book on my
preferred gaming system of choice
when I could just be playing Fortnite with the boys? Well, because unlike regular novels and other traditional means of storytelling, storytelling in visual novels and gaming as a whole has the ability to be told in different and unique ways that a poor old book would never be able to pull off. It combines great stories, visuals, music, and most importantly, interactivity to provide players with a truly unique experience. I believe that it is these reasons why visual novels have such a passionate fan base. Definitely not because 99% of the games are anime. Definitely not. In 428, you'll take the perspective of different characters and follow their respective routes, making some important and some not so important choices, all while progressing the story. In an effort to help organize things, the game puts all events on a timeline. The entire story takes place from 10 AM to 8 PM, or 1000 to 2000 military time, which is what the game uses. The chapters in the story are conveniently divided into 1 hour increments, so Chapter 1 is 1000 to 1100, Chapter 2 1100 to 1200, and so on. Within each chapter, you have to successfully navigate the characters to the end of the hour by making sure that you pick the correct choices. While some of these choices only have tiny consequences, such as a slightly different dialogue response, you will come across choices that will have massive implications, sometimes immediately, and sometimes further down the line. You also won't always be able to tell the difference between a big choice and a lesser one. There were many times in my read-through where I thought my choice was of little importance, only to have it literally kill another character in a different route. For example, one of the characters was looking for something in a storage closet when they suddenly came across a cockroach. You were given the option of either running away or sending the little abomination back to the depths of hell. The option I chose resulted in another character in a different timeline having a heart attack and dying, causing a bad end. You wouldn't think that the two events would be linked, but 428 finds a way. Speaking of bad ends, if and when you get them, you can select the bad end and it'll give you a hint as to how you ended up there and how to potentially fix it. That way you aren't left with your balls in your hand wondering what to do. As you're reading, you will also come across words written in blue text. You can select these words to read extra information. It can be anything from extra lore in the game to simply a definition of the word. Some might be quick to write off the blue text as unimportant, but it's actually imperative that you check all of them. I'll get to why that is shortly, so just bear with me. Each character's final point for the hour is designated by getting a to be continued screen. This means that the character has completed this section, and now you need the other characters to reach a to be continued in order to proceed to the next hour. However, you will also come across keep out screens. These are not the same as to be continueds. A keep out means that there is still more story for that character to go through in the hour. So, how do you break through a keep out? It's simple, but I only say that now in hindsight. When I first started, I will admit that I was a little confused. Now, I could just be dumb, but I think it had more to do with me only half paying attention to the tutorial. I'm not sure though, so I'll let you decide. Anyway, when you receive a keep out, you have to go to another character's timeline and use what's known as a jump to transfer from their timeline to another. Jumps will be represented in red text and it will show you whose timeline and at what time you'll be jumping to. Jump points can also be sneaky little bastards and hide in the blue text descriptions, so like I said a few moments ago, remember to check those. If you don't, you're going to get stuck and it'll be very frustrating. Trust me. Trust me. My biggest tip for getting through keep outs is to check for any jumps that share the same time. For example, if there's a keep out at 1150 on one timeline, check all other characters' timelines to see if there's a jump point at 1150. Keep this in mind and you'll bust down keep outs like a chronic masturbator busts nuts. Which is all the time. So, with the game's mechanics out of the way, let's get into the big stuff. Did you know that 428 itself can actually be read as Shibuya in Japanese? The 4 can be read as Shi, the 2 can be read as Bu, and the 8 can be read as Ya. Now, that might seem unimportant, and that's because it is. Now, what is actually important is the story. Without a solid story and solid characters, a novel isn't worth the paper it's printed on. The same can be said for a visual novel. minus the paper. The story takes place in, yup, you guessed it, Shibuya, one of Tokyo's special wards, famous for its fashion, nightlife, and the Shibuya Scramble crossing, the busiest pedestrian crossing in the world. It is here that our story begins, with the Japanese police attempting to capture a group of kidnappers. We are introduced to Kano, a detective in the Japanese police force, as well as Hitomi Osawa, the twin sister of Maria Osawa, the girl that's been kidnapped. The kidnappers requested 50 million yen to be given to them in person by Hitomi at the Hachiko statue at 1000. Obviously, things don't go according to plan, and chaos ensues. The rest of the story will revolve around the safe rescue of Maria at all costs. How will you do this? You'll do it by stopping a deadly virus from being released upon the citizens of Shibuya, meeting the deadline of a gossip magazine, picking up trash, ducking loan sharks, and selling as many bottles of the new diet supplement Burning Hammer as you can. How is any of this related? Well, figuring that out is the whole point. Going through each character's route and seeing how the dots and lines connect is part of the fun. Once the mystery begins to unravel and you see the threads beginning to connect and form the bigger picture, it's very rewarding. I won't go too deep into the story right now just to avoid spoilers, but later on I'll be going over some plot points I found important to discuss. I'll be sure to put spoiler warnings beforehand, so don't worry. But what is a story without the people inside it? From the main cast to the supporting cast, 428 is filled with many lovable and entertaining characters. Sure, they aren't all amazing 10 out of 10s. Some of them aren't even good, looking at you, Canaan. But they have heart, and honestly, they're more human to me than a lot of the people I've met in real life. So, let's go over some of the characters to give you an idea of who you'll be dealing with. As mentioned earlier, we have the young Japanese detective Kano, who's trying to make it as a respectable policeman in the eyes of his wife-to-be and the senior detective that he aspires to be like. Next, there's Achi, the ex-gang leader turned eco-friendly, self-appointed janitor of all of Shibuya. Norikawa, a freelance journalist extraordinaire second only to Frank West. Kenji Osawa, world-renowned virologist and father of Hitomi and Maria. More importantly though, Kenji is a Japanese idol fanatic that probably plays Idolmaster in his free time when no one is watching. And finally, Tama, a young girl in a cat costume just trying to make some quick cash to buy a mysterious necklace she saw earlier in the day. These are the main playable characters in the story, so most things you'll see will take place from their perspective. Throughout 428, you'll learn about their pasts and what's driving them forward. Even a character as simple, sweet, and inconspicuous as Tama has some serious baggage that you'll uncover. The actions you'll have them choose will shape the story and the fates of not only them, but all those around them. But aside from the main cast, we have the supporting cast, which I think I actually like more. I'm not going to cover all of them here, so I'll just go over some of my favorites. First off, we have Chiaki, a struggling journalist that has the social capabilities of a pile of bricks and the self-confidence of Carl Wheezer. She's recruited by Minorikawa to help meet a deadline, but she has to overcome the horrors of dealing with other people, and more importantly, developing the confidence to trust in her own abilities and become a great writer. She might not be the best written or the most interesting by other people's standards. She doesn't even have that much screen time, but I'm a sucker for these characters that start off as weak, pathetic maggots. I like seeing them grow and turn into confident, fully functioning members of society, able to take on the world and all the challenges that come with it. Next, there's Detective Kajiwara. He's the lead detective stationed at Kenji Osawa's house. He seems very stoic and boring at first, but that quickly dissipates as you come to realize that he's actually a comedic genius. His interactions with Kenji are some of the funniest in the game, as Kajiwara has a very dry form of humor, which frustrates the borderline autistic Kenji to no end. He is also a great caretaker, as he supplies Kenji with some great home cooking and an unlimited supply of potassium in the form of bananas that he can materialize at will. And while his comedic chops and wealth of phallic fruit shows no bounds, his ability to form a legitimate connection with others is really his greatest attribute. Kajiwara shows just how much he cares for those around him, not with hollow words, but through his actions. Even to Kenji, a man who he had just met the previous day, he's willing to put his life on the line in order to help him save his daughter. He's the first person to be able to break through Kenji's cold exterior and form a real bond with him, and by the end of their time together, Kenji learns to appreciate Kajiwara for what he's done for him. They have some really good heart-to-heart conversations that really make you think about what the important things in your life are. They make for a great combo, and they're definitely my favorite duo in the game. Some other side characters I enjoyed were Chidi, a young woman with a good heart and a voracious appetite, Kimizuka, the coolest, most clutch taxi driver in all of Japan, and finally, the GOAT himself, Mr. Yanagishita, but I call him Afro Man. Armed with his striped suit, a Grand Canyon full of charisma, and of course, his sweet afro, he will do anything in his power to get rich quick and avoid working a regular job. I think we can all relate to this a little more than we care to admit, but hands down, Afro Man is my favorite character. He's so over the top and ridiculous that I can't help but smile every time I see him. Anytime this man is on the screen, you know some dumb shit is going down. I really love this guy, and I now have a folder on my computer that just has screenshots of him from the game. Honestly, a lot of backgrounds from 428 are great, both in and out of context. Here are some good ones. Don't worry though, they don't have any sort of major spoilers, and even if they did, you wouldn't understand them. Afro Man is a goldmine, and I would pay for a 428 spin-off that just had him, even if it was him just taking fat dumps in different bathrooms across Japan with his theme music playing, I'd still enjoy it. Speaking of music, 428's soundtrack is quite enjoyable. It isn't anything groundbreaking, but each song works well, and conveys whatever mood it's trying to show. I'm currently listening to the soundtrack while writing the script, specifically at this moment, the song Devotion, and I can't help but smile. It's a simple OST, but it does a fine job. Here are some of my favorites. Give them a listen if you'd like. I mean, you've already been doing that if you've made it this far, unless you've somehow been watching this video muted. I'll be sure to put the songs I used at the end of the video if any of them stick out to you. So, we've gone over mechanics, story, characters, and music. Now it's time to discuss everybody's favorite part of anything, the negatives. Remember, this is just stuff I had a problem with. Just like with this entire review, all of this is subjective. If you've played 428 and disagree with my opinions, that's fine. Also, if you go on to play the game, don't let my opinions influence yours. Alright, we good? Okay, cool. Also, we're about to be in spoiler territory. Nothing too major, as I believe sometimes you just need to see things for yourself, but if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead to this time right here. Most of the big problems I have with this game are rooted in the story and a few of the characters. We'll start with Achi. While I don't think Achi is a bad character necessarily, I just don't find him all too interesting. And that's really unfortunate because at the start of the game, I thought he was going to end up being one of my favorites. The thing that carries his route are the connections to other important people in his life. Later in the game, you find out that Achi's family has a direct connection to everything happening in the story. So the complications that arise between Hitomi and his family, as well as his past with his former gang, are all infinitely more interesting than him. He has the makings of what could be a really solid route with all the things that come to light later in the story, but he's just kind of predictable. I can give him a slight pass because, you know, he's a stand-up guy, and I can respect that. He cares about helping others, he's good in a fight, and he cares about his city and the planet. I really wanted to like him more, but he's just one of the least interesting characters for me. I kinda get that generic shonen protagonist vibe from him. Next one we got is Jack Stanley, a member of the CIA working on the case alongside Kana. Now at first, he starts off as a kind of cliché CIA operative working with the foreign agency. You know the kind I'm talking about. They think they're tough shit, and they just shit talk the foreign agency all day. But you get to learn a bit more about him and his past as the story progresses. And while he and Kana are confrontational at first, they end up on good terms by the end of the story. So, what's my problem with him? He's a Fed, and I like and respect Feds about as much as Xi Jinping likes and respects Uyghurs. No, I won't change my opinion. Also, if my body is mysteriously found hanging with 7 shots to the chest, just let it be known that it probably wasn't me. Just saying. Okay, so, now we get to the big fish. Canaan and Alfard. I'll start with Canaan. I actually hate this character. She's so bad, I don't even know where to start. Nothing about her is interesting, and she's just so good at everything, it takes any sort of tension out of the scene because, oh, Canaan will take care of it. Oh shit, who killed this room full of dudes from the foreign crime syndicate? It was Canaan, by herself. Oh. Ah, jeez, dude. We gotta get into this maximum security laboratory with a super sophisticated electronic passcode that requires 2 parties, as well as a semen recognition analysis system. Ah, leave that to me. I actually specialize in cracking these systems. I'm okay with some things being a little far-fetched, but this shit is crazy. Especially considering she's supposed to be an assassin from the Middle East. Last time I checked, that region of the world wasn't well known for their technological prowess. She's also like 16 years old. If she was at least a full-fledged adult, maybe mid to late 20s or something, I could kind of buy it. But this is ridiculous. If this wasn't a story grounded in reality and was more along the lines of something like Danganronpa, then I could believe it. I don't have a problem with Junko being smart enough to cause the end of the world because the story and setting fit. I have no doubt that in a world where kids have godlike talents, there could be a high school girl with the ability to do all the shit that Canaan can do. However, that's not the case here. This is still grounded in real Shibuya, not anime or fantasy Shibuya, real Shibuya. There's a whole lot more I could go into about her, but I'd rather you see it for yourself. Alright, so Alphard is essentially the main villain of the story. I'm not going to show footage of Alphard because the reveal of who they are is part of the reason I hate the character. He's the criminal mastermind responsible for both kidnapping Maria Osawa as well as using the UA virus to hold Shibuya hostage. In my opinion, Alphard just isn't really a satisfying villain. Once they reveal who it is, the character pretty much just dolphin dives off a cliff and into a vat of shit. They should have honestly just kept them a mystery or just never had them in the first place. Alphard's whole thing is that their plan is imperfectly perfect. Basically, Alphard accounts for the imperfections of a plan to eventually give them the results that they want. This also helps keep their identity unknown, as the randomness and holes of their plan make it impossible to trace anything back to a specific individual. I mean, honestly, who the hell does Alphard think he is? Lelouch? Kira? That one dude from Cube? Alphard also has a history of eliminating the people that they work with in order to tie up any loose ends and keep their identity a secret. So, that begs the question, why would anybody work with them? Alphard eliminates all his collaborators after every operation, but this time it'll be different, right? This time he won't do that. No, I know that he really trusts me. I'm just that excellent. It'll work this time, bro, I swear. All those other times wasn't really what Alphard wanted in a team. I'm a real team player. My final problem, and maybe even the biggest problem I have with this game, is actually not the game itself, but rather Spike Chunsoft. Yo, how the hell are you gonna sell a visual novel for $60? Holy shit. I like this game. I really do. But it is not worth $60. Most games aren't, to be honest. But especially not a visual novel. Maybe this is why so many people haven't played this game. And if that's the reason why, I can't really blame them. But with that, we've reached the end of our journey. So, should you play or read 428 Shibuya Scramble? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. I enjoyed it, but at the end of the day, it's your choice to buy it or not. Or you could get it from your uncle, who may or may not be a seafaring boat captain. Even with the flaws it does have, the overall experience I had with the game is definitely more than enough to make up for it. Memorable moments, likable characters, and an overall entertaining story. I gotta say, it was worth the time I spent reading it. But if you do buy it, wait for it to go on sale. Please don't go out and spend $60 on this game unless you really just have that much disposable income. Then again, you're free to do as you please. The choice is yours. I just say wait for the Spike Chunsoft sales on Steam to pick it up. They usually happen a couple times a year. At the time of this video's creation, the Steam Summer Sale is happening, and the game is on sale for $10. I don't know the price for other platforms, and I don't know how often it goes on sale for them either. Well, thanks for making it this far, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed the video. If I was able to entertain you for this long, then I can be proud of that. More stuff to come. Anyway, I'll never forget you, Afro Man. You'll stay in my heart forever.